The hospital's intensive care wing lay hushed in the dim hours of early evening. The kind of silence that wasn't peace but pause. A temporary stillness that always felt like the world was holding its breath. Inside room 407, a tall figure lay motionless under layers of crisp white sheets. Monitors blinked rhythmically. Oxygen hissed gently. The faint scent of antiseptic lingered in the cool air. It was the room no one liked to stay in long. The room that held the man who once ruled headlines and Forbes covers. Alexander Royce. At just 33, Alexander had built a multi-billion-dollar tech empire. Genius, enigmatic, occasionally ruthless. He had everything, until 2 months ago. His black Aston Martin was found upside down near the cliffs outside the city. Its sides mangled, the inside soaked in blood, and yet he survived. Barely. His coma was medically unexplained, no swelling in the brain, no catastrophic trauma. Just a deep, unnatural silence. Neurologists were baffled. Specialists flew in. Theories bloomed, only to wither. Some said he didn't want to wake up. Others said he was trapped inside, aware but voiceless. The media speculated everything from cyber-sabotage to corporate espionage, but to Emily Hart, a young doctor still finding her footing in the relentless world of medicine, he was simply patient. She was assigned to the night shift, a rotation no one volunteered for. Most of her colleagues found it too eerie to stand alone beside someone so powerful, now rendered so helpless. But Emily didn't believe in fear. Not anymore. She'd seen death, failure, pain, and she had grown used to the strange calm of these quiet hours. With her chestnut hair tied in a messy bun and a clipboard tucked under her arm, Emily entered the room. She gave a gentle knock even though he couldn't hear. It was habit, respect perhaps, or hope. "Good evening, Mr. Royce," she whispered, placing the chart on the tray beside his bed. His profile, even slack with unconsciousness, still had the sharpness of a leader, strong jawline, high cheekbones, and the faintest line between his brows that hinted he once frowned often at people slower than him. Emily checked the IV lines, adjusted the saline flow, and finally reached for the bandage on his chest. The scar was still healing, though it looked better than the week before. She peeled the bandage back carefully. Her hands were steady, but her mind wandered. What was it like to have everything, and lose it in a heartbeat? What thoughts echoed in his silence? As she cleaned the wound gently, she spoke softly, her voice barely above a murmur. "They say talking helps. Even if you can't hear me, maybe it reaches you. I don't know. I like to believe it does." She paused to dip the gauze into the antiseptic. Today, the nurses were gossiping again. She chuckled lightly. "Some say your CFO already started redesigning your office. Others say your ex-fiancé flew in pretending to cry. I didn't see tears, but I did see a diamond bracelet bigger than my rent." She smiled faintly at her own words, pressing a new bandage onto his skin. It was then that she felt it, the faintest twinge. At first she thought it was a muscle spasm, a common enough thing in coma patients. But it happened again. Slight, deliberate. His fingers jerked softly, then stilled. Emily froze. The hair on the back of her neck prickled. She leaned closer, staring at his face. "Mr. Royce," she whispered. "Did you—" No movement. She swallowed and looked at his eyelids. Closed. Peaceful. Or was it hiding something else? She leaned a little nearer. "If you can hear me, do something. Anything." Silent. Then, like a ripple across still water, she saw it. His eyelids fluttered. Not once. Twice. And then his lips parted slightly, a soundless breath escaping. Barely audible, but enough. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. Logic told her to press the call button, summon the team, report everything, but emotion instinct rooted her in place. "Okay," she said slowly. "Okay, I'm here. You're waking up, aren't you?" Nothing drastic, just different, more aware, more present. Emily stepped back, trying to regulate her breathing. Something was happening, something no one else had witnessed. She walked toward the wall and pressed the alert button. "Patel," she said into the intercom. keeping her voice calm. "You need to come to room 4. I think he's responding." As she turned back, Alexander's head shifted a mere inch toward her voice. It wasn't just a twitch anymore. The seconds after Emily called for help stretched into what felt like an hour. The fluorescent lights flickered softly overhead, and the room now buzzed with a different energy, like something ancient had stirred awake in the walls. Emily stood still, her eyes fixed on Alexander Royce's face. His features had subtly shifted. The stillness was no longer the lifeless kind. It was a pause before movement, like the world was waiting for him to take a breath. Then he did. His chest rose, slow and deep, with the kind of clarity that wasn't involuntary. It was intentional, alive. Emily took a cautious step forward. "Mr. Royce, Alexander," she said gently. "Can you hear me? Try again. If you can move, blink." A pause. Then, with ghost-like grace, his eyelids opened. Not fully, just a narrow slit, but it was enough for her to see those eyes, sharp, icy blue, darting across the ceiling, confused but focused. They weren't the eyes of someone slipping into consciousness. They were already there, behind them, watching everything. Emily felt a jolt of adrenaline shoot through her. Her voice trembled. "You're awake." His lips moved, barely forming a shape. A scratchy whisper followed. "Where am I?" She took his hand gently. "You're in Mercy General Hospital. You've been in a coma for 63 days, but you're awake now. You're safe." He blinked once, slowly, and then turned his head slightly toward her, eyes locking with hers. They studied her, not with panic or fear, but like he recognized her, like he had seen her before. "Your voice," he murmured, his voice dry, nearly broke. "I know your voice." Emily blinked rapidly. "You heard me. I remember the stories you told. The bracelet. Your rent," he croaked, managing the faintest flicker of a smile. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. Something about those words, his remembering her, was almost too much to bear. But before she could respond, the door flew open. Dr. Patel and 2 nurses stormed in. Emily stood quickly, moving aside as they rushed to his bedside. The room exploded in motion. Lights checked, responses tested, questions fired, one after another. How long has he been awake? Was there eye movement? Did he speak? Any signs of disorientation? But Alexander's gaze never left Emily. As Dr. Patel leaned over him, asking questions, testing reflexes, calling for charts, Alexander raised a feeble hand, pointing past them all toward her. "She was here first," he whispered. "She woke me up." Everyone turned. Emily's face flushed, heart pounding. She hadn't expected recognition, let alone gratitude. But it wasn't just that. It was something deeper. In that moment, Alexander Royce, the man the world had nearly written off as a memory, had chosen to tether himself to her. Not to his billion-dollar company, not to the elite surgeons or board of directors, but to the young intern who whispered stories to a sleeping soul. 2 weeks passed since Alexander Royce opened his eyes. The media had been told nothing. His room was put under heavy security, and only a select few were allowed in. For the world, the billionaire was still in a coma, but within the hospital's top floor, behind security checkpoints and sealed records, Alexander was recovering fast, mentally sharp, physically gaining strength each day, and he kept asking for Emily Hart. At first she thought it was temporary, maybe emotional attachment after waking up, maybe confusion, but as the days passed, he asked for her opinion during physical therapy, requested that she sit with him during long stretches of the day, and sometimes just asked her to talk. It was on the 11th day that he broke the silence. He was sitting up for the first time, staring out the window at the rain. Emily was reading his latest MRI report, when he said, "I need to tell you something I haven't told anyone else." She lowered the file. "Okay." He looked at her, his face unreadable. "I remember everything." She blinked. "You mean before the coma?" He nodded slowly. "The crash wasn't an accident." Emily sat down, her skin prickling. "What do you mean?" "I didn't fall asleep at the wheel. I wasn't drunk. Someone tampered with my brake. I didn't want to believe it at first. But the last few days, things are coming back to me. Conversations, warning signs." "Who would do that?" she whispered, stunned. He looked down at his lap, jaw clenched. Someone close, maybe more than one person. My board was under pressure. There were rumors of a hostile takeover. I'd blocked some risky projects, upset powerful people. The night before the crash, I got an anonymous text. "You won't see tomorrow." I ignored it, thought it was empty. Emily's mind raced. "Why haven't you told anyone?"